Hey YouTube, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife video, and today I've got something a little bit different. By way of introduction, normally you're seeing something like this. This is the SOG Aegis, this is the Browse Silent Soldier, this is the Spyderco Yojimbo. All of these have been reviewed, and you're used to seeing this size and style of blade. Usually a folding pocket knife is what I'm talking about. Today, I've got something a little different, and you know that because you clicked on the video with the title, but this knife, I'm going to put in a similar role to those, that is an everyday carry knife, but this, of course, is a fixed blade rather than a folder. It's the Esee 3, and the reason I picked this knife as an EDC knife is because of the fact that it's sort of a general use standard design blade. Okay, it's not a Scandi grind, it's not a specific bushcrafting tool, it's not a survival knife where you're talking about almost a sharpened pry bar. It's more of a general use design, okay? And I really like that. That's the kind of knife I generally look for. And so for me, this was a really good fit for an EDC blade because of the size, the weight, the thickness of the blade stock, the edge geometry, all of those things kind of came together in this knife to represent what I was looking for. Now there are a couple others that are close, that are sort of similar to this, and I'll probably talk about some of those in the future, but this one really stood out to me as good size, good weight, good edge geometry, and a very good company. One last thing by way of introduction is that Esee knives, you know, are from Randall's Adventure Training, and Jeff Randall and Mike Perrin are actually involved in designing and testing these blades. So you're getting a knife that's coming from not only a reputable company, but from guys who really know what they're doing. It does say Rowan on here, indicating the Rowan heat treat, which again is a real win and a good reason to go with an Esee knife, in addition to those other characteristics I've already mentioned to you. All right. I will say this, I've been playing around with EDCing fixed blades and I've really been enjoying it. So you'll probably see a few more fixed blades that I purposely got to use as an EDC knife, okay? I've got a couple here for comparison purposes that I'll show you in a minute when we get to size and weight. And what the heck, why don't we do that now? So size and weight on this, it is 8 1/4 inches overall. It's really just a hair over 8 1/4 inches. The blade length on this is 3 5/16, and the handle, including the little glass breaker here, is 4 7/8. Now when you add the sheath to that, that now puts you up to an overall length of 8 7/8. So if you're thinking, hey, will this fit in a certain pocket on a backpack or whatever, 8 7/8, 9 inches is basically what you're dealing with, okay? The weight, when the blade is out of the sheath, is 5.2 ounces, okay? And when you add a sheath, you're sitting at around 9 ounces. Now, 9 ounces is going to vary, all right? And the reason it's going to vary is because this comes with a molded plastic sheath, so it's like FRN or something, which I'll speak about later. Comes with a pocket clip, but it also comes with like a nylon sheath as well. And so depending on how you configure it, that 9 ounces is going to be either a little heavy or a little light. Obviously, the lightest you could go is take everything off and lash this with paracord or something to your pack or your coat or whatever. I carry it with the belt clip, and I carry it in horizontal, just a little upward slant, as you can see, is how I carry it. And so in this variation, it's again going to cut down that weight just a little. Now, I'll talk about the sheath separately as we kind of get through our discussion. But before we leave size and weight totally, let me grab a couple of quick comparisons. Maybe I'll put the sheath on it first and then take it off. So there's the Esee 3 as it compares to the Esee Azula. All right, you can see it's quite a bit bigger, but with that more exercise, you get a lot more capability. By the way, the edge geometry is like 10 times better on this compared to this. Here is the Boker, sorry about that. Here is the K-Bar Becker BK11, often called the Becker Necker, right? And again, you can see how it's quite a bit bigger, and again, you're getting a lot more capability. Now, take those out of the sheath, and there's how it compares size-wise to the Becker. And There's how it compares to the Azula. I will point this out since we're getting into the blade anyway, let's point out that the blade stock on this is thinner, okay, than the Azula. So the Azula, I would say, is about 1/8 of an inch thick. This is more like 3/32 or something like that, okay. Put that down, and let's zoom in a little bit as we talk about that blade. Hopefully this works well. I've been having technical difficulties today. I'll move off to the side. There we go. So you can see that blade now a little closer up. You can see the Esee and the Randall's Adventure Training there on this side of the blade. You can see the Rowan, mark for Rowan Heat Treat, and Esee Knives USA. Okay, so you're getting a made in the US knife here. The blade, the whole knife really, is 1095 high carbon steel. It does have the Rowan Heat Treat, which you know, most people talk about these doing pretty well in terms of toughness and edge retention, which is really cool. That's what we like to see. It is coated with a fairly thick, fairly high texture coating, which does affect its slicing ability a little, but it's not the end of the world, okay? If this were a satin finish, and a lot of people do strip the finish off these, I don't see a reason for that. I'm going to leave it just how it is. Because it's not a major detriment as far as I'm concerned, okay? It does take a very nice edge, and it does have very good edge geometry for slicing type tasks, which is one of the things I really wanted out of an EDC fixed blade, okay? Something like this, the edge is much thicker, and so the edge geometry is not that great, and so it doesn't slice well, okay? If I'm going to carry this with me all the time, I want a knife that cuts and cuts well, because that's primarily what I'm going to be doing with it. Okay, we could have a different discussion, I would say, about you know, a survival knife or about a tactical or a combat knife versus an EDC blade. But for me, this was meant to be an EDC blade, and I think the shape with that nice belly on it, the drop point, and the very good edge geometry, all of those things come together to make this a very good everyday carry type of blade style. In addition to that, it would do really well in the bush, okay? One of the cool things about it, it's just really not its calling to, let's say, chop or baton. It's too small for that anyway, and it's not as thick. I have done some light batoning with this, and it did just fine. But remember, you're quite limited in the size of material that you're going to be able to deal with. And as far as I'm concerned, bring a hatchet. You know, it's gonna do the job much easier, and you're gonna have to work a lot less hard to get that accomplished. Now, oh yeah, sorry, I was gonna mention, this would actually be, you know, you're thinking of outdoor use, this would actually be a very good skinning knife. So there you go, that's my take on the blade. Just a really versatile, handy, cutting tool type blade, okay? And that's what I really wanted. I didn't want something that was overly designed for combat. I didn't want something overly designed for bushcraft. I wanted something sort of middle of the road that would do EDC tasks well and have the capacity to flex into other roles if needed. All right, so that's the blade. That's the size and weight. What about the handle on this? The handle is my micarta handle. It does have Allen key slots here so that you could take these scales off and maybe use this as a spear or something else. Micarta is nice because of the way it performs in damp conditions. If micarta gets wet, it doesn't lose any of its grippiness. In fact, you could almost say it gets stickier. So that's a real benefit and a really good reason to look for micarta scales on a knife. Not only that, but it's a pretty tough, durable material as well. Okay, it's comfortable. Okay, certainly much more comfortable than the other two examples I showed you. Both this knife, the Becker-Necker, and the Azula, I have paracord wrap on them. Now you can buy scales for both of these, but for the purpose I have for them, I didn't want to do that. Okay, I want the option to carry sort of a kidney carry or inside the waistband behind the back carry, and the scales thicken the knife up a little too more than I wanted. But obviously, this handle is much more comfortable because of the full scales, and it is maybe a little thin for a lot of hard cutting, but again, remember, this is primarily an EDC knife for me. I'm not planning on taking out a forest, just doing the odd cutting task here and there as I need it. Okay, and for that role, very, very good, very comfortable, if maybe a little bit thin. Okay, you could probably get away with overall an extra 1/8 of an inch here or something. It would add some weight to the knife and some size, which, you know, you're getting a little bit of a trade-off. This is a smaller knife, and so you want it to stay smaller. And so the thinness is not the end of the world. It is very comfortable and very grippy. You do have this finger choil, which I really, really like. I'm a big fan of the ability to really choke up on a knife and get some fine controlled work done. As well, this knife weighs 5.2 ounces, so by being able to choke up on this, you kind of mitigate against that weight. Does have back here the sort of glass breaker on the back, and these will break glass. If you ever see a knife that has a glass breaker, you go, hey, I wonder if it really works. It does really work. Just be sure that if you're going to hit a window, if you imagine the screen here in front of you is a window, you got to hit a corner, okay? It doesn't matter which corner, but you need to hit it near the edge where the glass is supported and can't just flex. If you want to see what happens when you hit a window right in the middle, just watch the news reporter that can't break the window in the news reporter fails video. That's actually really funny. All right, so all you have to do is hit it in the corner and you'll be fine. Now, let's talk about the sheath. I'm going to back out a little bit now for the last couple of points. There we go. That's probably good. The sheath, it is not Kydex. I kind of wish it was, although the performance is very good. It is sort of a molded reinforced plastic, and whether it's FRN or GRN, or it's some kind of glass fiber inside the plastic, okay, that reinforces and makes it stronger, which is great. It does come with this clip, and with the different screws on here, you get lots of different variations, which to me is pretty important, okay? Probably, you know, when you're EDCing a fixed blade, it becomes important that you can find a comfortable way to carry it. And if it's not comfortable, you're not going to do it. So, one of the real components that becomes major in this discussion is it has to have a sheath that allows you different options, whether you want to carry it this way or this way or this way or this way, or you need those options because each of us is going to be different and each of us is going to find something else comfortable, okay? I prefer it, you know, in a sort of slightly up-angled horizontal carry. You may find that terrible. You may not like it at all. Maybe you'll want to do it on the front of your belts or on the side or somewhere else. And so it becomes important when we're going to EDC a fixed blade, or even if you're just going to go hiking with it, that it's comfortable. And so that becomes a pretty cool feature, that the sheath does provide quite a bit of variation. All right, it does have good retention, which means you can carry this in any way that you want, and it has no rattle at all. Okay. It doesn't matter how I grab it, you cannot get it to rattle, and you can't get it to come out of the sheath anyway at all, which again is nice. If you wanted to carry this, you know, this way, let's say on a chest rig or something, you could easily do it and you've got good access to your knife. Okay, so sheath is really good. Would be a little nicer if it was Kydex, but it's not the end of the world. This performs just fine. One other thing I would say is you can see the belt clip here is quite large. Okay, so if you wear an 1.5 inch belt, you end up with a little bit of, this is kind of loosey-goosey, which is not perfect for me. What I often do is loop this over not only my belt, but my waistband as well. And that puts enough material in here that it ends up staying quite tight. Now I will say this one more thing. When I take this out, I always use my thumb and pop it out. And the reason is I don't always carry it in a way that's super secure. So if I got into the habit of just grabbing it and yanking all the time, you know what's going to happen? One time I'm going to grab and yank, and I'm going to take the whole sheath off, or I'm going to slide it across my waistband until it catches on something. Like, it's not reliable. So I've just gotten into the habit to always extract the knife by using thumb pressure, okay? And it works really, really well. All right, so overall, I find this to be a totally suitable EDC blade. It's probably a little big, but for me, when I'm carrying, most days I have an untucked shirt, so I can carry this horizontal carry on my belt or on my waistband. No one can see it. It's not flashy. It's not a big deal. These knives, can I configure these so that they're a little more comfortable? Sure I can. But I wouldn't want either one of these to be my only knife that I had with me on any given day, but I would have no problem with this as my only knife because of its size, because of its utility. This would be fine. These I would carry sort of along with, let's say, a folder or something else. This, I usually carry a small folder when I'm carrying this, but you could carry it all on its own. So overall, I think you've got a really good quality, really useful cutting tool here from a great company and totally EDCable. If you go up to the 4, you know, I'm not sure if it would be as good. Certainly if you go down to the Azula, although this is a fine knife, I don't think it's, to me, I feel like I want something more than this as my EDC. And so the 3 lands right in that sweet spot, okay? And so in addition to being useful, comfortable, easy to carry, it's also extremely high quality with that Esee warranty, which is like unparalleled in the industry. It's just a great warranty. So there you go, guys. That's my take on the Esee 3.